Hello everyone. So I'm David Clayton. I've introduced myself to you before. I'm going to talk about the way of beauty. Um, as I described yesterday, this is a description that I came up with in the early 2000s actually, so before I heard that Benedict was using the phrase, for the formation given to artists, which I was researching, given to artists traditionally, which I was researching because I wanted to become an artist and I couldn't find a training to sign up for. And I decided that the only way to do this was to investigate the nature of that training, found the school, and then enlist as its first student. Then as I started to look for teachers, I realized I was going to have to be the first teacher as well as the first student. And so these ideas that I came up with, I started to write down and then encapsulated in a book called The Way of Beauty, which is published by Angelica Press. And when I did that, Pontifex approached me and asked me to design a Master of Sacred Arts course. So I'm not used to applying these ideas at the K through 12 level. I think all of them are applicable. And in fact, somebody from Los Angeles approached me recently and saying that they wanted to create a school that was focused on sacred artists, rather like a choir school where there is this focus on choristers and singing, but they wanted the special focus to be on art. And could I help him to design the curriculum? Of course, I was extremely enthusiastic, and we'll just see where that goes. So I would love to see this move down, if you like, into the high school, grade school levels of education. So first of all, when I'm talking about beauty, I'm thinking of a definition which is the splendor or the radiance of being, sometimes the radiance of the other transcendentals I've heard. So it's a principle that speaks of the object we're looking at. It's an objective quality and it radiates out of it, and by that then we are receptive to it. So it implies a relationship between the object and the observer, and that we can see something about it, and when it's beautiful we like it. It attracts us. Now the way of beauty, Benedict in his homily at the Mass for his inauguration, so we heard mention of that this morning, said each Christian is called to be a pilgrim on the pathway of beauty, truth and goodness, in journeying to the celestial Jerusalem, where we will contemplate the beauty of God in a relation full of love, face to face. And then he quotes there, we will rest and we will see and we will love and we will praise. Such will be the end without end. And he elsewhere in that homily describes the way of beauty, or the via pulchritudinis, as the privileged pathway for evangelization and dialogue. So what I see here is something a little bit like Thérèse of Lisieux's little way. Her way was in love, just applied to the little things. So potentially every choice we make can be informed by what is the most beautiful, what is the most graceful. And it's interesting, just so far today, we've heard mention just in the last video of trying to give people principles of choice that are not simply prohibitive, but are affirmative. So once you work out what we can't do, which the thou shalt nots set out for us, there's a wide open field. And so that can be the path of virtue, that would also be the path of beauty. And so much of this is chosen as an intuitive level. So the more that we develop in harmony with the rest of our education, that ability to apprehend and appreciate what is beautiful, the more we will take that path. And it's just part of my own story that I'm a convert, and I met somebody who I didn't realise was a Catholic, and he gave me a set of what he called spiritual exercises. He was in his 60s, and I'd seen him work with others, but he said, "You can become an artist. What do you want to be, lad?" He said, he always talked to me like that. I was 26. You can be an artist if that's what you want to be. Do these exercises, they will put you in touch with God, and then um, if you give yourselves to them, and then you will be following that path of beauty. And what he really told me to do was then just take it one step at a time. You have this goal, you just do the next right thing in front of you. And so I was listening to the discussions about discernment of vocation, and how some people are paralyzed with indecision. Well, for me, this path that I was given took that away. You just work out what the next step is, and then trust that God will show you the next one. And as long as it's not against moral law or inherently bad, there's no reason to believe that it isn't going to take you to where you're going to go. And the way he put it is, "Thy will be done" is a fact, it's not an aspiration. And you basically discover that route, but you take action right from the first moment. And the secret that I discovered in this process that he didn't tell me, I was all driven by, I want to be an artist, I want to be an artist. Eventually I became one. But actually the big secret was that the path towards that goal was the gift he was giving me. And that was the joyful path. And I later met somebody, when I had ideas for art schools. He was a priest at the Duomo in Florence, an American, who everybody was trying to get to see. And eventually I sort of was hammering at his door, and I met someone who gave me an introduction. And he'd been a Yale art history professor, a late vocation, and had actually been converted while explaining the paintings of the Renaissance period to tourists. He was an art history expert, and then he joined the staff at the Duomo as a priest. And I described my ideas for an art school to him, and I wanted his opinion on my ideas. And he listened to me, and I could see he was responding to something. To this day, I don't know what it was, but I was pretty passionate about it. I knew what I wanted to do. This was what I was committed to. And he listened to me, and he made a remark. He said, he had one or two suggestions, but broadly speaking, he was encouraging. I thought, right, this is it. He works at the Duomo in Florence. He can open all sorts of doors. This is going to be my route to success. He just needs to say the word, and money will be flowing in my direction. The art school will be founded. And he said, "I think that you should do this. I think this is your personal vocation, just from the way you describe it, the passion you have for this, and the reasons you're describing." He said, "But I'm not going to help you." So I thought, well, thanks a lot. Yeah, that's great. He said, "And I can't even guarantee that you're going to be successful, that you will open this school." He said, "But I'm convinced that if you strive for that along the way, you will feel fulfilled, and that whether you know it or not, you're going to draw people to the faith. And that is your personal vocation, and that is what is going to be your joy in life." And so he didn't take away the goal from me, but he brought me on this focus to the path. It's the journey as much as the end. Christ is the way, as well as the truth and the life. Okay, so what is this artist formation, and what does it give us? Well, as I mentioned, it will give us an ability to recognize and apprehend beauty. It will give us an ability, if it's delivering what it says it does and what I believe it gave to these artists in the past, a capacity for being creative and creating things beautifully, because we have an innate sense of the pattern of the order that describes the cosmos, which ultimately speaks, as Benedict says in his book, The Spirit of the Liturgy, of the mind of the Creator. And we had discussion so far about this apparent conflict between science and the faith. Um, and it's interesting. I think if you understand the pattern of the beauty of the cosmos, you can describe that mathematically. I'll come to it in a second, in a way that is distinct from science, where you look at the quality of it, you look at the nature of the relationships, so number has a symbolic meaning. It has a quality as well as describing a quantity. This is the traditional way of looking at number and order and harmony. And none of this goes against the way that scientists use number in physics, for example, which is largely to quantify. We believe that number can quantify, but we believe it has a quality as well by virtue of the relationships that it can speak to us about. And I'll go into that in a little bit